I think my first experience of alcohol was when my dad gave me I think it was a baby sham when I was about, must have been about 13 years old, 13, 14 years old. And he gave it to me in this like champagne glass. And I just thought it was incredibly sophisticated and glamorous with the bubbles. And I was kind of entranced by it. So I always found alcohol, like when I was a teenager, relaxed me. And if I was going into a social situation, I was quite shy, and I'm still quite shy now, actually. But yeah, the alcohol just made me feel a bit more comfortable around people. And then I think then I started to. I think it was probably sort of in my late teens. I started to get very severe depression and anxiety, and absolutely without doubt, I used alcohol to medicate that. I don't. I don't know how I would have functioned really without it. So you get into this vicious circle of medicating the anxiety and the depression, and then the next morning you feel absolutely I felt absolutely dreadful. It would make me feel suicidal. Couldn't get out of the house. So it's a really like a short-term answer to a long-term problem. Basically, if you have anxiety and depression, it doesn't work in the long term. I think my drinking really started to get out of hand when I had a long-term relationship end, and it was just I was so overwhelmed with feelings of loss and grief and just sort of unbearable. I had very bad like separation anxiety, and I just needed the alcohol. Then I had to have it. I mean, addiction has always been part of my family when I was growing up, and I felt that that was normal. I thought that that's what everybody did, and also mental illness. It was there, and like I love to say, we're all a product of our experiences, and I'm definitely that. So I had the on the one hand the mental illness, and on the other hand the alcoholism within my family already, and then I took it on a generation. Yeah, with addiction, I think in a way, the worst impact was actually on me. How it affected me, it destroyed my confidence, my self-esteem. I couldn't relate to people. I had friendships and relationships, but my most important relationship was with alcohol. And you can't have an honest relationship with anybody if you're using a substance. And the alcoholic mind can make you believe that everything's okay, that actually you're not an alcoholic. Because when I started going to meetings and we have to say I'm an alcoholic, I thought, am I really? I don't know. It's a very hard thing to say. And of course, that word is very stigmatized as well. I do now say alcohol dependent or alcohol dependency. And really, it's just another way of saying addiction. It can be to any substance or any behavior. And my choice was alcohol. Basically, I ended up going on a 4-day binge, and I ended up in A&E, and I thought that it was the first time that that had happened, and I thought that I drunk myself into a sort of nervous breakdown because I was just like shaking all over. And the duty psychiatrist said to me, he said, "You're alcohol dependent. You need to go and get treatment." And that was really that was it for me. The kind of shame and the realization hit me then, and I just thought, Maddie, you've got to take responsibility for this. You have got to change your life, and it's such a massive, massive step. And thank God I did, because the life that I have now is just amazing. And yeah, the courage that it takes to get into recovery is enormous. But as you go along day by day, you start to realize that you can cope without your substance. And then you start to discover yourself. And that, I mean, it's incredible. It's like, the phoenix rising from the ashes. You start to realize that actually you are a good person. I thought that I was a bad person. I hated myself. I thought, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to yourself? Because I knew every time I drank where it would go. And I knew that that was an act of self-harm. I wasn't taking a knife to my arms, but I was picking up alcohol and drinking far too much. I was really, really bereft. I had no positive feelings and I was spiritually dead. I wasn't in contact with myself. And I think the answer to addiction is finding yourself, finding the real you inside, the part that isn't the damaged child or the frightened child that needs to have a substance to get through life and to deal with that in therapy. That's what I did. I had therapy and it's really helped me so much. I think the link between mental health and addiction is absolutely fundamental. The two go together, especially for me. That's what happened to me. I was medicating my mental illness with alcohol. I could have chosen opiates, or I could have chosen food, or some other kind of coping mechanism. It's like a faulty coping mechanism because you don't know what to do, because you're overwhelmed with feelings. Depressive illness and anxiety is anguish, the living anguish of feeling that, and suicidality. I mean, my heart goes out to anybody who deals with that suffering, because it is intense. It's one of the greatest gifts that recovery has given me, is the ability to pass on my recovery to other people. So I'm able to work with a number of newcomers who are women and give them my experience, strength and hope. And that is, I'm saying amazing. I'm saying amazing a lot. It's incredible to be able to do that from someone who went from not being able to get out of bed, not being able to function, couldn't get out the front door without drinking, half a bottle of wine, to someone who's running a community interest company, non-profit, and being a filmmaker. My life has changed. I hate to think what would have happened if I didn't pluck up the courage to get into recovery. So what's life like in recovery? Gosh, I don't know where to start, really. I'm so busy. I am the busiest I've probably ever been in my life, running Sobriety Films. And, I did a degree in filmmaking. I am a filmmaker, and I'm a big advocate for the sort of therapeutic use of film as a way of healing from addiction, mental ill health, and trauma. That's basically what we stand for. So I'm using my lived experience to make films, to hold screenings, and to run recovery filmmaking workshops with groups. So, like during lockdown, we did lots of recovery filmmaking groups around the country, like to people in rehab, newcomers, people who'd relapsed, people who wanted recovery, and that was just astonishing. To be able to do that and to pass on that small bit of hope. I guess there's a number of things that I've been really proud of in my recovery. One of them was being in LA last October at the Real Recovery Film Festival, the USA one, which is like the largest the largest one in the world. And my film How I Got Sober was premiered there, and I did a Q&A afterwards. And it was just amazing. I sat there in the audience watching my film, watching my contributors who are so brave and courageous. And I thought, my goodness, what's happened? What's happened to you, to me? from just despair, utter despair. I never thought that I'd be able to recover from my addiction and my mental health. And there I was sitting in this movie theatre in LA, and getting up, speaking to people, and I was talking about the mental health crisis then in young people in the UK. And I used to be paralysed with social anxiety. I couldn't even speak in meetings. So I don't know. I just sometimes feel like the luckiest person alive. I think, for me, certainly, I had to get clean and sober before I could address my mental health problems. It's impossible to address your mental health problems when you're drinking or using something, because it makes it worse. And, the addictive cycle, the downward cycle, down, down, down you go. You can't address the mood, the anxiety issues. Your life is chaos if you're in the addictive process. You have to break out of the cycle. And I'm saying you can do it. I know lots of people that have done it, and it takes massive courage, but you can do it. So there has been a 50% rise in drinking in the UK with the situation that we're dealing with now. And I know that there's a lot of mental health problems, much more than we've ever had before. And it's basically, clearly see that we are human beings, we're social animals, we rely on social systems to survive, like just going to the shop to get our bread, or going to work, or, going to our treatment centre, or we need this structure. We need structure in our lives, but we also need other human beings, and we need to know that there are other human beings that understand the pain, the stress, the worry, the uncertainty of what's happening at the moment. These are very difficult emotions that we're dealing with globally, and some of them may continue and become chronic problems, and we have to look after those people and try and educate them about looking after their health. So I would say to people who are, suffering out there from mental ill health or addiction, that recovery can happen, and it's happened to me. I've seen, over 14 years I've been in recovery, lots of people get better and heal. At the beginning you think it's impossible, but it's a step, that first step, that's all you need to do. Just reach out your hand and ask for help, and there will be someone there that can help you. So what I really want to do next year is do the first ever UK Recovery Film Festival. I think we need it. I think people need to see these wonderful, inspiring films about addiction, mental ill health and trauma, that people can recover and you can have a life. And to also educate and raise awareness of those issues is really important. So we're doing a number of films for addiction services, and I get to work with some amazing, inspiring young people in recovery who volunteer for us here. And so we're like a sort of collective, we're like a family, and most of us have lived experience, and we just want to get that message out, really, that recovery is possible, and life's beautiful. And I never thought I'd be able to say that.